Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. And my session is all about employability skills and how we can weave those into our English language teaching. So today's session, we're going to find out what are these professional skills and what are our students looking for in order to succeed in English and then in the world of work. Then this neatly takes us to the Step Up course, which puts these professional skills at the forefront, mixing it in with the English language skills that you need to gain these skills in order to succeed in the workplace. Then I'd like to show you what the book looks like so that you get an idea of how Pearson are weaving in and putting these skills into the course book and how that might ignite you and your classroom practice. Then I want to sort of show you a new feature of Pearson called Credly Badges, which is something that comes with this course book. And then finally, I just want to cover some tips that you can take away in case you would like to start delving into professional skills and how to work with them in your classroom, but you may not have the material, you may not have the Step Up book yet in order to do it, but these are some considerations that you can take and try out on your own in your classroom. So without further ado, let's begin with what are these professional skills then? So I just want to draw your attention first to this survey that Pearson did back in 2020, and it's the Global Learner Survey. And so it was an online survey conducted by people either in adulthood already or just entering, so it's ages 16 to 70, and it took place globally, all around the world. People were asked questions about things like their motivation to learn, what do they prioritize when they want to take up studying English. And for me, I just want to draw your attention to this takeaway feature. And it says here that in a tough economy, which is what we're living in today, professional skill building is the chief goal of most people. So let's just zoom in on the top two answers, that the reason why people want an education is first of all to have a better life. So of course, the better our English knowledge is, perhaps the further we may go in our professional careers, or perhaps there are more choices available to us. But also another reason was to gain professional skills, so skills that are going to help our students in the world of work beyond university. But of course, the term professional skills is quite broad. So what do we mean by professional skills? Let's have a look at them. Taking you to another bit of data here, this is another research carried out by Pearson, Nesta, and the Oxford Martin School, where they were looking at what do employers look for when they want to employ people or to give them a promotion. And from this research, Pearson has grouped the professional skills needed by employers into 6 main categories. So I'm going to ask you now to the chat box, what do you think are these professional skills that employers are looking for? And I've given you some letters to help you figure out what the word may be. So go to the chat box and tell me, what do you think are some of these professional skills? Yes, we've got some good answers coming in here. Lovely. Good. I think you've correctly identified number 4, which is leadership. That's great. That's right. Nice. Good. Keep them coming. Yep, lovely. So we've got some nice words coming in, such as critical thinking. We've got collaboration, and we've got self-management. That's right. God, you're doing very well at this. This is great, guys. There's a couple left, I think, that we might not have come across. Can you figure out what they are? I'll give you another 20 seconds. Oh, very nice. Okay, yes. Okay, good. So we've got social responsibility. We've also got another answer here, which is very good, called self-motivation. Let's check out what the 6 skills are. Yeah, I think you managed to cover all of them. Well done. So we've got communication, collaboration, critical thinking, leadership, self-management. But I do like self-motivation because I think that's absolutely connected. You have to manage yourself in order to achieve your goals. You have to keep motivated. So very good answer there as well. And social responsibility. So if we just briefly go through those. Communication, of course, it's what we do as English language teachers. We're always encouraging our students to be able to deliver the message that they want in the correct way. So that's our communication skills there. Collaboration, obviously in the world of work, there's a lot of teamwork. It's a globalized world, so there are connections not just in the office, but beyond. So it's getting people to collaborate with you to achieve a goal. Critical thinking, very important that we don't take facts or so-called facts at face value. We're going to be analyzing, assessing, questioning, making sure that we have an opinion on something that is informed and clear. Leadership, of course, all employers value leadership, someone who has the confidence to take their ideas forward and to help other people to believe in their vision. Self-management, as I just mentioned with the self-motivation, it's not up to a teacher to be the one to motivate students all the time. When we leave the classroom, it's up to us to review our notes, to think about things, to keep studying, to keep challenging ourselves. And these are the skills that are also applied in the workplace. And finally, social responsibility. This is very important for things like protecting the environment, making sure that all different races, nationalities, genders are included, and that we are active in making the world a better place. So these are the 6 main skills. Now, there are a lot of sub-skills that come under this, but these are the main umbrella terms. So if we look now at the contents page for every level of the Step Up course, and it goes from A2 plus all the way up to C1, what are we noticing? Okay, all of these content pages are exactly the same. Module 1, communication. Module 3, goal setting. What do we notice? It is exactly the same as the professional skills that we've just identified. So this course has been designed to try to touch upon and build upon those professional skills so that students are practicing how to do it, how to get good advice, good tips, in order to then apply it in the workplace. So I think that this is very, very interesting. So now I'd like to move on to just talk, taking you through one of the modules of the Step Up course. Before I do so, I've got some questions for you to find out some more information. I want you to go to the chat box and tell me if you think that is true or false. So our first question is that the Step Up course is purely self-study, that no teacher is required for this course book. What do you think? Is that true or false? We've got a lot of people thinking. What do you think? Put it in the chat box. What do you think? Is this only a self-study course, or do you think that a teacher can come along and teach this course as well? Kinga says, hope it's false. That's good. Let's have a go. Most people are coming in with false as the answer. All right, I'm going to tell you what the answer is to this question. It is false. That's good. Yes, of course. A teacher is also very, very needed in order to teach this book. But there are 2 methods to studying this book. There is a self-study course, and that's the module I'm going to walk you through today. And there's also combining that self-study course with a teacher. So the idea behind this is there's a lot of responsibility on the learner. It's a kind of flipped learning style approach to learning the English language. And the student is going to put the work in at home and then come to the lesson prepared so that the teacher can listen and guide the more practical skills needed, where correction is needed and wanted by students, whereas certain perhaps grammatical things or some vocabulary learning can easily be done by the student at home. So there are two methods to do this. It can be purely self-study for some students, or we can combine it with a teacher in order to get our students to get the most out of the course book. So question 2, it takes 18 hours to complete each course book if students are doing the self-study option. Now, do you think that's true or false? Don't worry if you don't know the answer. It's a 50-50 chance if you think it's true or false. Okay, so we've got some answers coming in now. So we've got a few mixed responses here. Some people think that's false. Some people think that's true. Okay, I'm going to show you the answer to this question now. This is true. Of course, every student is a little bit different. Students may go faster perhaps at the beginning, slow down at the end. They might want to go back and revisit some modules or some lessons that they need reinforcing. But on average, the student section of the book takes 18 hours to complete. But again, this is flexible and we can mold it to our teaching schedule as well, where perhaps we might slow down or speed up depending on when we're going to see our students. Okay, question 3. This course prioritizes professional skills over English language skills. Do you think that's true or do you think that's false? Okay, so a couple of mixed responses here as well. Some are saying false, some are saying true. What kind of course book do you think this is? All right, I'm going to tell you the answer now because I've got the feeling perhaps you're not sure. So here we go. It's false. Remember, what we are good at is teaching English language. This is what we're here for. This is what we do. So it will never be prioritized by other things. But instead, the book is asking students to learn the particular grammar or vocabulary or skills, reading skills and some writing skills and so on, but with a focus on improving these professional skills. So all the role plays are very much practicing conflict resolution or how to be a leader or how to get a reluctant team member on board. So all the role plays, writing, all the reading texts are all focused on helping our students to be better professional workers. But all of the ways to do that in the English language is, of course, to present the English language. So this is a big priority for this course book. So I'm going to do a walkthrough of an online study module, and I'm going to take the module from the B1 Plus course book. So this is a picture of my portal where I see all my course books. And as you can see in the B1 Plus online course, the first module is communication, and the sub-skill that is going to be practiced here is resolving conflicts. So when we click on the course as a student, we're automatically met by a coach that introduces the module to the student and it gives them a sort of lead in as to what they're going to be studying, which we know from good practice is what we do in our classes. Then the lesson gets personalized immediately, and students are going to be self-assessing and being very much aware of themselves. So it's that self-management section that we were talking about earlier, and self-motivation. So where students are going to look at the theme of the course, for example, here it's resolving conflict, and they have to grade themselves. How good do they think they are at resolving conflict? And at the end of the module, students will come back to this page and see if they then feel more confident, the same, less confident, and it will reflect the decisions that they make at the end of the module. But I'll come on to that a little bit later. Then straight away, we're into the English language section. We go straight into vocabulary learning. And there's a long list here of vocab words that students are going to need in order to understand and do well in this module. And what's really nice is there are these icons on the left where students can hear how the word is pronounced. They can record themselves saying it, and then they can listen back to their recording and check that they have said it the same way as the original speaker. And if they haven't, it's the opportunity to try again, record it again, and keep listening. Because we know that pronunciation work can be very tricky. And so sometimes we need to just say a word a few times in order for students to, one, remember it, and two, to say it correctly. Then if you look at these icons over here next to the vocabulary words, some of them are in green and some of them are in black. So the green ones have been highlighted, and I've highlighted these, and I'm imagining that I'm a student. And what this means is I get to create my own personal vocabulary list. So it really caters for students of different backgrounds or knowledge, because not all the words are familiar, not all the words are needed to be learnt. Students can curate the list and go, well, I know those words, but these are the words that are new to me. Okay, so then they can make their own personal vocab list, and they can keep checking, and they can also start to eliminate the words from their vocab list once they've learnt it. So this is a really nice shortcut to sort of a personalized learning approach. Then once the vocabulary has been looked at, there's obviously some consolidation work to be done to practice using the word in context. And what's nice is because it's this online module, this online way of learning, you can use the technology to quickly press a button, go back, look at the vocab list, come back to this activity, choose the right word. So you can flick about between the pages in a really easy way. And there's also these icons that I've circled here on the left and also at the bottom, where students can check their answers one at a time. They can check all the answers at once, and then they can also get feedback as to where something went wrong. So there's different approaches to checking that the students have got the answers correctly. Now, I just want to throw in here some practical ideas that you can use in your classes, or your students can use if they're doing the online module, in order to further practice vocabulary. Because I love teaching with course books, vocab sections, because there's so much you can actually play and do and change in order to keep pushing your students further and further and further into practicing. So I just want to share with you some of my most favorite ones. Imagine you get an activity like the one we've just seen, where you get a sentence here. And the answer to this one is, this is a good negotiation. Now we get something that we want. Okay. Why not turn that sentence into the negative? Okay, this isn't a good negotiation. Now, we didn't each get something that we want. Maybe we can ask our students to also turn these sentences into question forms, so that, because that's always tricky in English, how to change things into questions. So we can challenge our students. Okay, you've done this. Now put it into a negative. Now put it into a question. Now work with your partner and do something if it's necessary. Another thing I love to do is to use the discarded word. So again, this is really great for students who just need an extra push in class. So here, the correct answer to question one is, let's brainstorm a list of possible solutions to the problem. Great. But there are two extra words here, resist and shut down, that the students didn't use. Well, can they make their own sentence using those words to check that they understand and that they know these words? So pushing them even further, making their own sentences out of the discarded words. In the course book of Step Up, there's also a lovely pronunciation section where a real pronunciation coach will talk the students through some of the features of the English language. And in this case, the module is focusing very much on the letter O and all the different variations we can find with the spelling. So once the students have gone through that pronunciation section, they can go back to the sentences that we were just practicing. Let's brainstorm a list of possible solutions. These are all the sentences that they just did the gap fills with. And they can once again hear the sentence in its entirety. They can then record themselves saying the sentence, and they can listen back to themselves. So again, we're moving on now from isolated vocabulary words to practicing those vocabulary words in a complete sentence and saying the sentence as clearly as possible. And then what we can do is we can go back and further extend this. Once we've done this practice, we can then challenge our students to say the sentences as fast as possible. So this is a fun activity I do in class with stopwatches on a mobile phone, if mobile phones are allowed in your classes. Students are not competing against other people. They're competing against themselves. So they have to say 4 or 5 of the sentences as fast as they can, but still being clearly understood. And they time themselves doing it. So imagine if they are saying the first 4 sentences here, and they time themselves at 22 seconds. Great. Then their partner has a turn, of course. Then when it comes back to them, they have to say it faster than 22 seconds. So again, they're in competition with themselves. And as we know, native speakers often diminish words, give stress to certain words. So it's practicing those kind of skills on top of it as well. So I love that kind of activity, and it's very, very vocal, very memorable. And then the final thing I love to do with vocabulary activities is add extra information. So sentence 1 here, we've seen, it says, let's all brainstorm a list of possible solutions to the problem. And then I ask my students to add the next sentence that you might hear after a sentence like this. And for example, I've written, that way we can decide what is best. So challenging students to then take the conversation further, like they would need to do if they were in a business meeting or talking to a colleague. So those are my top vocabulary extension ideas for you there. I hope you find them useful. So we've looked at the section of Step Up and how it's very focused on the English language so far, but now it gets applied to the professional skill that we're looking at, which is communication, and the sub-skill is resolving conflict. So what we have here is a scenario that students are watching. So, and there's some comprehension questions that come with it. So it's a traditional sort of listen with a video and then checking understanding. And what we have here is extra vocabulary to help the students to understand the video. And we also have a section here on the right where I've circled where students can opt to have subtitles that come onto the screen as well if they want to, or to just download or look at a transcript of the conversation as well. And then the students will listen again, and they're now starting to write down the practical tips coming from the video about how to resolve conflict. And therefore, these practical tips are there for students to apply and learn in any language, their own language, in English, because these are generally good tips for how to resolve a conflict or what to think about in order to avoid that. Then students have to apply the knowledge that they've just learned in the video. And here there are 3 scenarios that students are trying to read and really think and problem solve and think, okay, wow, you know, if this is what's happening, what could the people have done differently, or what might they do next in order to resolve the situation? So it's applying the practical professional skills, so consolidating the notes that they've made. And there are 3 different scenarios to practice that, which is great. And of course, all that lovely vocabulary is coming back again, the grammar's coming back again. So we're always recycling and helping our students to learn. Then we come back to a language strategy. And I love this section of the book because it gives students like a practical view of English and how people might communicate in a business situation. So in this module, it's showing students how people define or give emphasis to important words when they're trying to explain something or give a presentation. And so it's a very practical page where students are then practicing that language strategy of how to define and emphasize words. Then we come into a section of personalization. This is a section where students are actually writing about a time in which they have experienced a conflict and then what happened. So there's an example of a person that has a conflict, and you can listen and read. And then the students have to look at that model and apply their situation using the language, using the vocabulary that they've learned. Then there's a period of reflection where students are asked, okay, so you've completed this module. What did you learn? Was there anything surprising? What are you going to take away with you and use in the real world? And again, there's a model of an answer there, and students again can frame their answer below. Now, I just want to come back to this writing section that I just showed you about, this personalization. And when we ask students to write something, of course, if you're complementing this with a teacher teaching the course, of course, we're here, we can read the writing that our students have written, we can view their progress on the portal, we can see everything about our students, where they're going well, where they need to improve, and we can correct work. But sometimes students need a bit of help at home before, to resolve any doubts perhaps, before they want you to see the final product. And that's great, because that's editing. And we want to encourage, what we said earlier, this idea of self-management, that we're going to find other tools in order to be better students. So I just want to walk you through some ideas you can give your students if they want to be better writers at home. And these are all free tools. And the first one is a tool called Text Inspector. You may have heard of it already, and I'll be very brief if so. It's a free, you can pay for it, and it gives you a lot more data, but I've always used the free version. And what you do is you copy and paste your text into the box. It allows you to go up to 250 words. So if it's longer, you have to kind of break it down into different sections. But for something like the Step Up personalization activity, roughly 250 words is absolutely fine. You wouldn't want any more. And it analyzes it. It gives you an overview of what the text is, and we can see how difficult the text is. We can also see how are we at a particular level. So here it says that I've got a very good percentage of words at B1 level. And that's great, because the course is B1 plus. So we want to be hitting those high percentages. So students can have a look at that and go, if it says, it's coming up from more low B1 or A2, I need to think about my vocabulary. I need to put some more things in. So there's that. But for me, I think the most important thing is it does spot spelling errors, which I think is great for students. So I put down three spelling errors, and it got all of them. So I think this is a nice one for students to check out. The next one is ChatGPT, or a variant of. Now, I know that this particular program can be controversial. I'm not saying that you should go for this. I'm a believer that artificial intelligence, if you, like all technology, if you use it for good, good things will happen. So I just want to show you the good things that I use ChatGPT with. I decided to throw in some grammar mistakes to ChatGPT. So not spelling, I did grammar. And it came back with the right answer for my writing every time. So here I put, my colleague always use items on the big table. Now, I'm telling a story, I'm telling an anecdote. So of course, ChatGPT replied back with the correction used. Correct. I also decided to do a sort of what we call a Spanish style, because I live and work in Spain at the moment. And this is something my Spanish students would say all the time. We ran out of time to tidy them up before class. It makes that we had less space to do our planning. And ChatGPT caught it and said, no, the best phrase here is this resulted in less space. So really good catch, because it's grammatically correct, that phrase that I gave it, but it's not what a native person would say, a person who can speak English. So it was a good catch there. So that can help students really to pick up on the things that are perhaps not quite what an English-speaking person would say and not as understandable. And then the final thing I'd like to recommend to you, of course, is the Pearson GSE Text Analyzer, which is a really lovely tool. You can copy and paste a text into it, and it will tell you how difficult a text is, or how, or indeed, if it's a student's own piece of work, how good a text is. It shows the student roughly what level the writing is at, what words have been used that are above the level that you're looking at, which is wonderful. And I like to use this tool as well as a teacher. Sometimes I go and find my own texts to work with in class, and sometimes I'll pop them into this analyzer and make sure that the texts are not too above my students' level. And it will also highlight words that I need to be really careful, I need to watch out for, to make sure my students can understand those words. So I love this one. So now we come to the end of the module, and we go back to that self-assessment, and hopefully students are feeling more confident in their skills about how to resolve conflict, and they can compare their answers to the answers that they gave with a quick button press. They can look at the one at the beginning of the module and the one at the end without clicking back through 15 pages. Then students are invited to do a project, and this project is what will be carried out with the teacher in the classroom. So it's getting ready for the teacher to get involved. And then finally, at the end of the unit, of course, it asks the students, how well do you think you've done it? Do you think you met your goal? If the students answer somewhat or no, of course, they have to go back, refresh until they feel nice and confident, and the book tells them, oh, okay, go back to page 5 and work your way through the activities again. If the answer is yes, then they can go on to do either a practice test or the official end of module test. And once students have completed all of the end of module tests, it leads us on to Credly badges. And Credly badges look like this. And they look very smart, very snazzy. So Credly badges come about when students have done the 12 end of module tests. They then unlock the end of course book course test. They get 3 attempts to do it, but that shouldn't be a problem because they've managed to pass all the other modules successfully. So it's nothing new, just consolidating what they've learned throughout the course. And once they've passed that end of course test, they get this Credly badge assigned to them, and it gets sent to them through email, the email that they've signed up to the course with. And it's a chance for students to put this on their email signatures for business, or perhaps a digital CV or resume. And if you click on a Credly badge as an employer or a person university, for example, it gives the person all the information about how hard the students have worked in order to earn a Credly badge. So it tells the employer that this person studied for this amount of time, covered these particular skills, is at a certain point in English language, and it's very, very useful for students. So now the final part of this presentation is I just want to talk you through some tips for how you might incorporate professional skills into your syllabus if you have a course book that doesn't quite hit all of the notes that we've been talking about today, but you're very interested in trying to implement these professional skills in your classroom because they're incredibly valuable. These are some tips I have for you to think about the course book that you're using in your academy and how you might be able to weave in and teach some of these professional skills to your students. So we're going to split this up into 2 sections now. We'll go through the tips of what to do before the academic year starts, so what we should be thinking about in August and September, and then what to consider when you're actually wanting to teach a skills segment in your class. So let's start with the first one. So we're in August and September, and we're thinking, yes, I really want to try and help my students this year. I want to teach some professional skills to them and help them with their world of work. Now, what do we need to do? The first thing I would say is you have to get support from your team in order to do this successfully. So you've got to talk to your director and your colleagues about putting it in as part of the syllabus. And if you all agree on this, it means that you get to share resources, you get to share conversations, because it's quite hard to go through and find very good bits of material. So you might need some help there. If you have a course book that has a focus on professional skills, of course, all the information's there for you. But if you don't, you're going to need some help, I would say. Then, of course, you want to choose a good course book. So you want something that's engaging for students and that has some nice role plays that you can implement, or that you have some text that you can slightly change, either a listening text or a reading text, and focus a little bit on a professional skill such as a leadership or self-management, and throwing in an extra piece of challenge. So choose a good course book that you feel has some of those spaces available to you. The professional skills are very large. As we saw, there are 6 main categories, but under those categories are about 8 or 9 plus sometimes subsections. And I think that it's quite difficult to go and hit all those professional skills by yourself with no help throughout the whole year. So you might want to think, if it's your first time and you're trying to do it by yourself, you might want to go, okay, I think my students would benefit a lot from leadership and social responsibility, for example. And then you go away and you focus on those 2 things. Remember, communication, we do a lot of this in our course books. We've got a lot of good, I think, role plays and modules and speakings about communication. So perhaps we might want to complement it with others, or you go into more difficult style communication, as we've looked at here, such as resolving conflict. So when you have your book, in advance, you've got to get your highlighter out, you've got to get your notebook out, and you've got to go find the spaces in the book where teaching a skills segment would work. And it doesn't have to be a whole hour on teaching a professional skill. It could be more bite-sized chunks. It could be, a 10-minute extra section. It could be half an hour. So you really need to go through to your course book and identify those points where you could weave in those kind of professional skills. And then you've got to go find those appropriate materials and activities, and that can be quite time consuming. So perhaps you might want to plan in advance just the first term from September to Christmas, and then in the new year plan the next semester in order to break down the workload. Now, you might think, gosh, where on earth do I find these materials? How do I know what professional skills? Where do I start? And obviously the internet's going to help you with a lot of that. But a good place to start, I think, is the GSE Teacher Toolkit. So this is the Pearson global scale of English, and it helps you to break down that global scale of English into the things students need to do in order to achieve that. So, for example, I want to teach how to deal with a conflict, but I don't have a professional skills course book. Okay, not a problem. We go on the GSE Teacher Toolkit. Okay, so here on the left side, I have selected professional learners. There are different boxes, different sections here, but of course we're focusing on the world of work and employability and professional skills. So I've selected professional learners. Okay, so as you can see there, yeah, there's the box on the left. You could have chosen academic learners as well. There's a lot of crossover there. Okay, so professional. And then I'm going to go and look at the business skills, because I want to teach the professional skill. Language skill, we know, very important, yes, but I'm trying to weave in some professional skills here. So I'm going to go in, and there I've got a section called negotiating, and I've got a sub-skill, addressing problems and obstacles. Yes, that has a lot to do with resolving conflict. Nice. So I'm just going to click on that. Then I'm going to move my scale, because my course book is B1 plus, but I've also extended it to B2 because we're trying to push our students over into the next bracket. And then here are the results I'm getting. Okay, and this is just some of the results, okay, from that particular skill that I've identified. Can discuss problems and solutions related to change in the workplace, can encourage decision-making in meetings, can propose action to be taken, and can deal with dissatisfied customers. Wonderful. So number 3 is the one I'm looking for. Look at that. Can propose action to be taken to resolve a conflict in a simple negotiation using fixed expressions. Bingo! What a great resource I've got here. This is what I want my students to focus on. So when I click on that section, it comes up with a sort of helpful page, and it's not all. I had to chop the page because it went on quite a long way, but it comes up with the language the students will need to use, or might need to use, practice, or consider when in order to do this skill. And this is a start point for me as a teacher. I can look at this list of grammar and I can go, right, good, okay, I've got a starting point here. If I focus on this, and this, and then I can later on ask my students to use those skills and practice resolving a conflict with those fixed phrases. Good. So this is a way to help you have a go at designing the lesson yourself. And then go onto the internet, into the library, try to find those role plays, those practical things that you might do, students might do in the workplace, and try to practice those skills. So now the day has come and you want to try teaching a professional skill to your students. Great. So we're talking the beginning of October now, for example. So here are some considerations to think about when you want to teach the skill. And my first one is try not to use the skill to practice just learned language. Now, what I mean by that is course books of old used to say, okay, here is the present perfect. This is how the present perfect looks. Let's do some activities and now talk to your partner, and you must use the present perfect as much as you can. That's very much a grammar focused activity. But we're interested more in, when we're teaching these professional skills, is how good are students at resolving conflict? They may use the present perfect, they may use a passive structure, they may use whatever resources they have, but how well did they do it? Did the other person relax in the conflict, or did they get even more angry when they were trying to resolve the conflict? So there's other things to think about. Tone of voice, body language, those kind of things. So you're assessing the student's ability to carry out a skill, and the focus on the grammar or vocab should not be the priority. That's what I mean by this. So you have to shift your focus, and students have to know that you're doing that. Okay. And sometimes it's more okay that they make a grammar mistake but they resolve the conflict. So they would actually score very well in your assessment. Okay, and you wouldn't penalize them too harshly if they made a couple of grammar mistakes. Please choose an interesting topic, something students want to get involved in, something that they really want to do. I think that providing a model for what it looks like to resolve a conflict, or reading or watching a video, or giving step-by-step instructions will really help students to sort of follow that model and go, okay, great, let's have a go ourselves. Give students a real reason to communicate. So again, I keep mentioning this idea of trying to find activities that represent what students might do in the workplace, so that they can use those skills when they actually face it in their real workplace. Help students with some useful phrases in order to carry out the activity. Obviously, you'll have had a list of ones that you think are really good, but ask the students to provide phrases that they know, so you get more phrases into the mix and more buy-in from the students. And then also, it's really important that you tell students how you're going to assess them. So again, it's going back to point one, that you're sort of explaining to them, okay, it's how you carry out this task that I'll be assessing. I'll be assessing your body language. I'll be assessing your turn-taking skills. I'll be assessing how you think quickly on your feet. Whatever the criteria is, you have to tell the students what you're going to be assessing them on. Otherwise, your feedback won't really mean anything to them. Or indeed, if you're giving a number, what does the number mean? 7 out of 10. What does it mean? So make sure the criteria is up on the board, or that you've discussed it with the students. So this brings me to the end of the session, unfortunately. And just to refresh ourselves, we have looked at professional skills. We know that employers are prioritizing these professional skills because in this world of work, it's very competitive. As we know, there's a lot of technology out there, and it's actually these person skills that are highly valued by many companies. The ability to lead, the ability to critically think, the ability to get people on board with your idea. This is what employers are looking for. And I see no reason why we can't help our students from the very beginning to prepare themselves for this, and then to do it in English as well. We've looked at the Step Up course, the online section that the students will be doing, and then students will carry that knowledge into the classroom with you as the teacher. We looked at a module and how helpful that is, and how students can do that at their own pace, can reinforce and personalize a lot of the content. And we also looked at Credly badges, which are really useful for students in their digital signatures or in their online CVs or resumes. And finally, we've made a start on thinking about how we can set up the idea of teaching professional skills if we don't yet have a course book that addresses all those needs. But of course, it makes it far easier if you do have a course book that clearly states in the contents or on the back of it that professional skills are included in the syllabus. So it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, and thank you very much for having me.
Sorry, not this one clicked. Liz, thank you so much for your presentation. It was wonderful and super interesting. Thank you very, very much. I hope this is the end of your working day today, or not?
It's not quite, but getting there. This was the highlight of my day.
The highlight, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, and have a wonderful weekend. And I hope to be seeing you super soon.
Thank you, Lisa.
And I'll just say goodbye to the participants in Polish right now, if you don't mind. Szanowni Państwo, kończymy dzisiejsze spotkanie dotyczące umiejętności pracowych w życiu naszych uczniów. Thank you very much to Liz Beer, thank you very much to Dr. Ken Beatty, and thank you very much to myself, to Pearson, and to EduNation. I hope to see you all very, 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 very soon. Dziękuję bardzo i do zobaczenia. Bye bye, Liz. Bye bye, you all.
Thank you.